The first fat drops of rain smacked that brand new blacktop like 1,000 tiny middle fingers from the sky. It wasn't the soft lullaby I grew up hearing on Willow Creek Pond. This was the sound of greed getting exactly what it ordered. And I, Ethan Hale, former combat engineer who once diverted rivers under fire, stood at my window with a cold beer and the smallest, meanest smile you've ever seen. Because Karen Whitaker, president of the Harmony Ridge Estates HOA, self-appointed queen of beige, everything and certified ruler of other people's lives, had finally pushed the hill too far. This whole nightmare started the way every HOA horror story does, with a smile and a clipboard. Harmony Ridge sits in the Golden Foothills outside Sacramento, California. Picture postcard houses, perfect lawns, the kind of place that looks peaceful until you read the 87-page covenant. Karen moved in 3 years ago, big white smile, tennis skirts starched within an inch of their lives, and an allergy to anything that wasn't community approved. My 6-acre patch with its spring-fed pond wasn't just next door, it was an eyesore. Real nature touching their sterile kingdom? Unacceptable. First came the love letters. Dear Mr. Hale, the cattails along your southern shoreline violate Section 7.4, Visual Harmony Standards. Please remediate within 14 days or face daily fines of $250. I sent back photos of the great blue heron that had nested there since my grandfather's time and a county wildlife report. Karen's reply email was pure poetry. We appreciate your passion, Ethan, but rules are rules. Even for you. Then the frog choir at dusk became a noise nuisance. Then the wild blackberries were invasive species. Each time I politely reminded her the pond had been here since the gold rush, and my family had owned this land since 1912. Each time she smiled that Stepford smile and quoted another subsection, like it was the 10 Commandments. The real war kicked off when Karen decided Harmony Ridge suffered from a catastrophic shortage of guest parking. Never mind that half the driveways were empty because the owners were in Aspen. She needed a shiny new lot, and the only flat ground left was the 2 acres my pond occupied. So she did what every HOA Karen does when she wants something. She manufactured a crisis. At the Emergency Safety Summit in the clubhouse, complete with charcuterie and passive-aggressive name tags, she rolled out her star witness, some slick consultant from Summit Geo Services, in a suit that cost more than my truck. Slides flashed, red danger zones, scary graphs, the pond suddenly labeled a subsurface erosion hazard, threatening every foundation downhill. The solution? Drain it, stabilize the soil, and, what a coincidence, turn the whole area into much-needed community guest parking. Karen stood there in pearls, hand on heart. This isn't personal, neighbors. This is about protecting our property values and our children. I almost laughed out loud. Almost. 2 weeks later, I walked into the next board meeting with a 42-page report I'd stayed up 3 nights writing. My own hydrological models, 70-year county water records, my professional engineer stamp, everything. I laid it out calm and clear. The pond wasn't a hazard. It was the only thing keeping the hillside from sliding. Drain it, and you release an artesian aquifer under pressure for centuries. The room got real quiet. Karen stood up, tilted her head like I was a sad puppy. Thank you, Ethan, for that heartfelt presentation. But we have a licensed third-party expert report. You, unfortunately, have a clear conflict of interest as the owner. So the question for the community is simple. Do we trust one man's nostalgia? Or do we act on professional advice to keep our families safe? The vote was 47-3. My lake was sentenced to death. The pumps arrived at dawn like yellow mechanical vultures. For 48 hours they sucked Willow Creek Pond dry, while I stood on the bank watching bluegill flop in the mud, and the heron circle overhead screaming like it knew exactly who did this. When the last puddle vanished, all that remained was a cracked clay scar, and the faint shimmer of water seeping up through geometric fissures nobody else noticed. But I noticed. That night, standing in the stink of drying mud, my grief flipped into something colder and sharper. The pond hadn't just been water. It had been the cork holding back an ancient pressurized aquifer. Karen and her fake experts had yanked the cork. All I had to do was give the bottle one tiny, perfectly legal shake. I went ghost. Stopped answering emails. Let the grass grow a little wild. Karen drove past in her white Range Rover, windows down, waving like she'd just won the lottery. Healing looks good on you, Ethan, she called out once. I gave her the deadest stare in my arsenal. Let her think she'd broken me. Behind closed doors, I filed county permits for a residential geothermal HVAC upgrade. completely legal, environmentally friendly, and the perfect cover for a compact drill rig. The public notice went up on my gate. Karen probably laughed herself stupid driving by it. Poor thing lost his pond, and now he's drilling holes in his yard. How tragic. 14 boreholes later, each one placed exactly where my model said the capstone was weakest. I returned the rig, cleaned my hands, and waited. Mother Nature didn't make us wait long. The atmospheric river hit on a Tuesday night, like God had opened every faucet in California at once. I sat in my armchair, coffee going cold, watching the brand new parking lot turn into a 2-acre chocolate milkshake in under 20 minutes. Water sheeted over the curbs and started its slow march downhill toward the gleaming mansions. Phase 1 was just the warm-up. Then came the hum, low, deep, the sound of the earth clearing its throat. The parking lot surface began to bubble like it was boiling. Cracks spiderwebbed outward. And then, one by one, my 14 carefully scored weak points became 14 roaring geysers, blasting mud, gravel, and centuries of pent-up groundwater 30 feet into the air. The flash flood that followed didn't meander. It charged straight down the slope like it had a personal vendetta, carving a new riverbed exactly where the old spring used to flow. It ripped through sodded lawns, flung marble bird baths like frisbees, and slammed into Karen Whitaker's $4.2 million Tuscan palace at the bottom of the hill. Her Instagram story that night was comedy gold, shaky footage of her in a silk robe screaming, "This is not what Section 12.3 meant," while brown water poured through her floor-to-ceiling windows, and her $18,000 couch floated past like a lazy river ride. By sunrise, the parking lot was a cratered moonscape. Half the neighborhood sat in 3 feet of silt, and Karen's mansion looked like it had been hosed down by a chocolate tsunami. The sheriff's truck rolled up my driveway at 9:17 a.m. Sheriff Morales, and the county geotech engineer sat at my kitchen table with the same suspicious squint everyone gives the guy who just got away with something beautiful. I slid the binder across. Here's the full geothermal permit package, county stamped, inspected, paid in full. Also a copy of the 38-page warning report I hand-delivered to President Whitaker 6 weeks before they started draining. Page 17 specifically mentions the risk of aquifer breach if the pond's weight was removed. The engineer's eyebrows climbed her forehead. Morales leaned back. "You're telling me you warned them?" "I did more than warn them," I said. "I followed every single one of their precious rules while they ignored science, ignored history, and ignored common sense. Turns out Mother Nature doesn't care about Section 12.3. The investigation took 3 months. They found the wire transfer from Karen's personal account to Summit Geo Services, a shell company she partly owned. Fraud, reckless endangerment, the whole buffet. The HOA filed bankruptcy under an avalanche of neighbor lawsuits. Karen's house sold at auction for pennies. Last photo I saw of her was on the local news. Perfect hair finally messy, designer suitcase in hand, fleeing to her sisters in Arizona while reporters shouted questions she no longer had bylaws to answer. Today the hillside is healing. The spring carved itself a gentle new channel exactly where it always wanted to go. Cattails came back first, then dragonflies, then, this morning, I saw the great blue heron standing tall in 3 feet of clear water where Karen's marble fountain used to be. I didn't cause the flood. I just stopped standing in the way of what was already coming. So here's my question for you, comment section. True or false? The real power abuser was the HOA president who hid behind community rules to destroy a family legacy, or was it the engineer who simply let nature finish the job she started? Drop your verdict below. Because in the end, water always finds its way home, and some people only learn that lesson when it's floating their couch down the street.